guys? This is Future Braden, just coming at you with a little bit of a housekeeping message before your episode starts. Um, First of all, the Patreon is active and live, including some of the benefits. We're starting with if you subscribe, you do get early access to episodes, and we're going to build off of that while we figure out how everything works. And 100% of those funds right now are going right back into the podcast just to help with upkeep. It's not a free show to run, so all that stuff helps with us there. Additionally, merch. We do have a merch store with merchandise, including the Nerodia Find Your Musk t-shirt. There's also a Nerodia for Her t-shirt, so check those out. Those are pretty cool shirts there. Additionally, again, all that goes right back into the podcast hosting of the show. A couple poor bitches, it helps out with us. So, additionally, something else that really helps us out is reviews. 5 stars on Apple, reviews on Spotify, YouTube comments, likes, all that, cliche shit. If you enjoy the show, please check that stuff out. It helps, and even your viewership helps. So if you don't feel like you want to contribute any money or anything like that, that's fine as well. We really appreciate just you guys checking the show out. It's something we really enjoy doing, and we'd like to keep doing it for a long time there. Aside from that, just enjoy the episode with Steven Kush of Kush's Korner, the podcast, as well as the Scrub Shepherd, Scrub Python breeder, king of Scrub Pythons. It was a super cool episode, and now I have about 10 minutes until I have to go to work. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let us know what you think. Feel free to leave us any recommendations or suggestions on guests you guys would like to see as well. This is your guys' show as well, so just let us know. And without further ado, enjoy us talking to Steven Kush. Hey guys, welcome to another Creature Crossing podcast. Today we're joined by Steven Kush, and I'm also rejoined by Brennick, who is back from work. Brennick wasn't here for our last episode, if I remember correctly. Was that last episode, or was that the one before?
I think it was two episodes
ago. The other one's not out yet, though. So, how are you doing today, Steven?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Very good, thank you. Brennick, how are you?
Can't complain. Can't complain.
So before we get started talking about whatever we're going to talk about tonight, because we don't really have any plans, Steven, can you just, for the 4 people who are going to check this out and not know who you are already, just let us know who you are and what you're kind of working with, what you do?
Yeah, so I'm just a guy who loves reptiles, man. But my collection, it's gone through lots of different iterations over the years. But currently, my main focus is on scrub pythons. I'm very fortunate to have every species and locality that I'm able to get in the U.S. at the moment. But besides for that, I have a nice collection of montane rattlesnakes, some larger colubrids like Pituophis and Spilotes, and a little bit of odds and ends beyond that. But that's primarily what I'm working with these days.
Awesome. And when you say working with, you're breeding stuff as well, or just keeping?
Yeah, I mean everything that I have, with the exception of, a handful of animals that are just long-term pets. Everything is a breeding project to one extent or another.
Yeah, that's awesome. And while I was looking through your Instagram a little bit before, and definitely for me, the most attention was from me was for your scrub pythons. Now, a little anecdote: I've worked with one scrub python, and Brennick and I are in Canada, and there's not really a lot of scrub pythons around up here.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even think there's a lot around in the States. So imagine Canada, but
relatively speaking, yeah.
Yeah, we had one, and I couldn't tell you what subspecies it was. This was in like 2000. I think I was 13 at the time, so it would have been like 2013. And it was just labeled as an amethystine python, and it was like so fucking nasty that we actually ended up having to take it off of display because it would just glass strike at people.
Yeah.
It was just nasty. I think it was like 10 foot or something like that. Like it wasn't massive, but well, maybe that is massive. I don't really know.
That's a big scrub python, no doubt.
It was cool. It was one of my favorite snakes we had.
Mhm.
But it was a little. We had it for a while, but couldn't keep it on display because of that.
Makes sense.
Like, are they like known for that? Like, how's their attitude? Did we just get the one that was? It was. I almost guarantee it was wild caught, but like,
Yeah.
what's their
So
attitude?
yeah, it's it's not necessarily a simple answer. Scrub pythons have always had a reputation of having nasty attitudes, and sometimes it's earned. For the most part, it's not. I mean, I have over 90 scrub pythons, and I maybe take a few bites a year, and and I interact with all of my animals to one degree or another. But yeah, wild caught animals have always potentially had kind of some issues, but there's just some kind of little tricks to the trade of handling scrub pythons that keeps them calm. And then they're pretty intelligent animals, so they get very used to how you interact with them. And over time, you kind of build that relationship, even if it's never going to be an animal that you can carelessly let crawl around your neck and stuff like that. You kind of come to an understanding. But now with captive breeding, and now into multi-generational captive breeding, that almost seems to be entirely fixed off the bat. I mean, I have plenty of wild caught scrubs that I would let a child hold. More so captive bred, but I also have more captive bred than wild caught at this point. So a lot of it also kind of seems to be genetic, where if there's one or both of the parents of the clutch have good demeanors, almost 100% of the babies will. If neither do, then it's a little bit more of an uphill battle with the babies, but they're just very defensive when they're young until they get comfortable. And they're very visually oriented snakes. A lot of the times working with scrub pythons is almost more comparable to colubrids than many of the other python or boa species out there, just as far as how they process the world. So for someone who's not used to that, it can be a little daunting, but as soon as you kind of get the behavior understood better, they're really not bad at all. And frankly, to me, they're some of the most kind of rewarding and fun snakes to interact with.
Yeah, the scrub, like me not having a lot of scrub experience or like knowing much about them isn't even really by choice. I think scrubs are like they're got to be in like they're super cool snakes, and like they seem from like I've heard a couple of your other podcasts talking about them and some of your guest features talking about scrubs as well. They seem like once they're situated and into that point where they're like handleable or whatever, like they seem like I feel like they're underrated. Like I think
Oh,
I'm
big time.
surprised more people don't have those snakes. I get there's more to it than people see snakes and want to get them and whatnot and get them.
Sure.
But like for the most part, like I feel like scrubs should be higher up on people's lists, especially when you consider how smart they are. Like, and you can even see that from a lot of the videos you post and
Mm.
stuff like that, and the way that you guys scrub people in general talk about how they interact with their keepers or
Yeah.
owners or how even their environments. Scrubs just seem like a really, like you were just saying, a rewarding animal, and it surprises me that they're not more common. Like, would you, in
Yeah.
your opinion, like I know it's not like a black or white question. I believe that like for the most part, any animal can be a quote good pet. Not really. There's obviously exceptions, but like
Yeah. There's
if you
some.
want like a tiger rat snake, you can make that a good pet if you
Sure.
provide for the animal, whatever. Just as an example, do you think scrubs in general, like for let's say somebody who has a few years of reptile keeping
Mhm.
experience, would make a good pet overall, or do you think they're more of like a yeah, get into that when you've experienced I don't know
Yeah.
boas and other pythons and stuff?
Sure. So yeah, it's definitely not a black and white, one size fits all answer. If I were to generalize it, I would say yes. They, they do make good pets. And then obviously, you go a little bit deeper on that. Obviously, having some experience with larger pythons, be it scrubs or otherwise, even not in your own collection, just be a little bit prepared. One of the good things about scrub pythons relative to the other large pythons, retics, berms, etc., is that proportionally speaking, they grow much slower and they start off much smaller as babies. So, like for me, for instance, my first scrub python was a barneck. It was a wild caught, but I acquired it as a neonate. It couldn't have been more than about 3 months old, and I had a good 4 years before a bite from that animal would have been anything significant. the snake was just a perfect angel of a snake, never even threw a strike at me. So I got super lucky off the bat with that. But you know, there may be like very specific cases where a scrub python could be a first pet for somebody. I would say the that exception would be if somebody's just super obsessed with them and has done just as much research as they possibly can, and like this is their laser focus on this one thing. Aside from that, obviously not a great starter snake, just for the simple fact that they get fairly large, at least most of them do. But for anybody who has at least some reptile experience and also knowledge of what they're getting themselves into, as well as a commitment to have that animal for the long haul, I think that, especially now with the prevalence of captive breeding, especially here in the US, um, for anybody who has access to captive bred animals, they really are phenomenal captives. They make pretty great pets, and with a little bit of time and effort, there are very few, if not any, that you can't have be a super chill pet snake.
And are you, just out of curiosity, are you producing? You gotta be, I assume, but are you producing scrubs at a point where people can hear this and go, oh, like, I've been thinking about getting a scrub for the last X amount of years. I should go talk to this guy. Or are you like, or when you breed scrubs, are they like, oh yeah, they're already gone before they're even like hatched?
It depends on what kind they are. Some yes, some no. I mean, I know I have a couple available right now, so I'm fortunate that everything that I really had from last year went to new homes.
Nice.
But yeah, I've gotten to the point where I'm still trying to get breeding really dialed in. I've had some good success. I mostly attribute that to just having a lot of them, and slowly over time learning things that make them tick. But I've gotten to the point where every year I'm consistently producing some. So yeah, typically speaking, every year I'll have some available from any number of different clutches that I have.
I could assume it's kind of a cool like frontier to be on because there's not a lot of people breeding
Yeah.
scrubs and their relatives. Uh,
Mhm.
so like, like, how long have you been breeding them?
So my first clutch was in 2020. I
Nice.
got
Wow.
a clutch that went bad in 21, and then ever since then I've had multiple clutches each year, with my most being 6 in 2024. Um, yeah, that honestly that was one of the things that I don't want to say one of the things that drew me to them, because the potential of a market for them really had nothing to do with it. But I did see the scrubs as potentially filling a niche in the market that nothing else was filling, and frankly being a good alternative to retics as far as a similar general kind of description of a snake. And I jokingly kind of shit on retics from time to time. I like retics. I had some for a while. I don't have any anymore.
I just shit
I
on, not to cut you off there, I just shit on the keepers.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking for the most part.
Oh
Brennan keeps
no.
retakes.
Well, it's a different conversation. But I for one, like the moment I got my first scrub python and put that animal in my hand, it was like a moment I can't describe as other than just like I just knew that this was it. Like I found my thing. So when I first got into scrub pythons, I had the gamut of other pythons, Australian Indo pythons, and now I have scrub pythons and like a few pets that I've had for all of them over a decade, as far as pythons go. And I really don't have any real impulse to work with any other pythons as of now. Um, I consider Bolins as part of the mix, so I you know, they're the real Highland scrub pythons. But really, anything else aside from that, not a whole lot of interest anymore. And frankly, a lot of people are putting a lot of good work in with many python species, so I don't feel like they're being underrepresented by any means. But yeah, they just, a lot of the different things that people look for in a python, they got it. I mean, people like the large constrictors, just is what it is. There's a reason why retics are as popular as they are, why Burmese had the run that they did for however many decades, kind of up until the Lacey Act, where they never fully bounced back from. And then with scrub pythons, you can get a 10-foot snake, but at a fraction of the weight of the equivalent sized berm or a retic snake that one person really can take care of on their own. But they still have like their like those big heads. You know, their eyes are beautiful. Like they have a lot of these really distinctive features that kind of go along well with that large python description. Um, they're very intelligent. They make great display animals. You know, they'll move around. They're not going to just sit in one place. Then you know, also they're extremely variable. There are a handful of morphs that are around. The only ones that are really like proven as genetic are the ones that are just very prevalent in nature. The different patternless and axanthic genes that exist in a few populations. But I mean, with all the different locality types and then the few natural morphs that do exist, there's like 30 different phenotypes within scrub pythons that you can work with. And then, you know, to me, endless possibility for line breeding. So to me, and this thought process was probably back 2016, 2017. I'm like, no one's really putting serious long-term effort into this. Back at the time, there were a handful of people who were doing scrub pythons with a larger volume, but they would acquire a collection and then sell off the entire collection and then buy it back in bits and pieces and sell it off again. Nobody was really seriously committing to it for the long haul. And even just with like, especially with the Barnecks have always been the ones that have really been like at my core as far as they're my favorite overall. And man, it's tough to say, but the thing that pushes them over the edge for me is the variability and just the absolute like boundless possibilities for line breeding with them. I'm on F2s and I'm staring at some of these babies like I don't know how this can get better. I know it can, but like I'm only at F2 and this is how amazing these animals are already. And you know, and people are seeing it. Back when I first got into scrub pythons, there was a community, but it was very small, tight knit. There's a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of really negative, nasty people in the community that, I mean, frankly, and this may have been their goal, but kind of scared people away from keeping scrub pythons. They would talk about them like they're some like black mamba bushmaster king cobra hybrid, just the most dangerous snake in the entire world, that you need a riot shield to work and stuff like that. And you know, that I mean, especially being a teenager with less experience at the time, I'm like, am I even ready for something like that? And then I got my first scrub python. I'm like, this is what they warned me about. This like perfectly chill snake that is easier to work with than my carpet pythons. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that was interesting. Why would you, like, if especially if you're a breeder, why would you discourage people from potentially becoming your customers? That part never made any sense to me. And now like back when I was first getting into scrub pythons, one scrub clutch anywhere in the US in a year was like, oh wow, that's amazing. That person produced scrubs. Two or three was like, oh wow, what a heavy year. And 2024, I think there were over 20 clutches in the US
Wow.
alone that year, between, and most of them were Barnecks and Southerns, but still like, so you know, obviously the demand is growing if there are that many breeders. And I mean, I I'm making a living primarily selling scrub pythons. Obviously, it's not all that I work with, but you know, they've been the primary driver of my business, so to speak. So enough people are interested in them, and uh, you know, with more people breeding them, just more eyeballs are going to come onto the species. And what I really like about it is, you know, something that I'd really try to do that everybody else who's really serious about this is also doing is the selling point is not, hey, get in on the ground floor. There's going to be money to be made here in a few years. Whether or not that's true, I guess, kind of remains to be seen. But it's all about like, hey, like these are like the coolest snakes to keep ever. If you're a Python fan, like you can't beat this. There's, I mean, every aspect you would want in a Python is present in these animals, and especially some of these captive bred, you know, between like some of the Barnecks, the Highland animals, like they're just gorgeous. I mean, they're really some of the best looking snakes out there, just objectively speaking. Whether or not you keep scrub pythons, like some of the color and pattern variations that exist in these animals, you know, just even first generation out of the wild is unmatched by most other snakes. In my opinion, obviously I'm biased, but I've also worked with a lot of snakes, so I feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah, as somebody with his whose favorite color is green, I agree. There is some cool olivey scrubs out there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Rennick, you got anything before I keep yapping?
No, I was just gonna say, like I saw your post today, or well, I think you posted it a couple days ago of that really light female barneck, and it's like that is just one of the most beautiful snakes I've ever seen.
Yeah, she's popular. I get why. Yeah, she's incredible. That clutch might be rivaled by the one I had last year, but like maybe my favorite snakes I've ever produced. The female is still to this day maybe, and unfortunately she passed after her clutch, but the mom who was wild caught, maybe the most golden barnack I've ever seen in my entire life. Like legitimately gold, not like, oh, this is yellow that is kind of bright. Like gold is the only way to describe her. So and color with barnacks really takes about 4 years to fully develop into its final form, where pattern you can pretty much see within the third shed. Um, but color can take a long time to fully develop. So these animals are a year and a half old. So for as nice as that female looks now, man, in a year even, oh, I can't wait. She's
Yeah,
nice. So
I wouldn't
yeah,
want to be waiting for that either. I'd be like, go, go, go,
hey,
go.
I'm very fortunate because I have kind of like a bunch of different like generations holdbacks from this year and this year and this year, that it's easier to wait for some of those younger ones because I'm like, oh, now these are ready to go, and like there's always something going on. But yeah, if I was just sitting here raising these animals up, I might give them a few extra meals. But so
What do you are you primarily feeding them rodents?
yeah, I've fully rodents.
Yeah. Have you like ever experimented with like birds for them? They just seem like they would take birds so well. Like I don't know really
Yeah.
too much about their natural like, which I want to ask you about
Mhm.
if you have any information on it.
Yeah.
Like how they are in nature there, but like they
Yeah.
seem like they would love to take a bird.
Oh no, they love birds. I mean, I breed quail. There are certain animals I'll give quail to every now and then. I've fed scrubs, birds. I fed them everything. And
Yeah.
to me, they grow the best on rodents, and they just overall their body composition, their bowel movements, everything to me says that rodents are the feeder of choice for them as a staple diet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't discourage anybody from varying it up. The only thing I will say though is I've had some scrubs get stuck on birds, and the ones I got that were stuck on birds, they just really don't grow. Um, so even feeding a similar volume of birds relative to what they would eat in rodents, because the mistake that a lot of people make is they take a small rat and they're like, all right, I'm gonna eyeball this. Like this is eating a small rat. I'm gonna eyeball this quail or chick that looks the same. Well, it's half the weight of the rat because birds are pretty freaking hollow. Um, but even like weight for weight, they just, to me, they grow better on rodents. Um, but like I said, not discouraging anybody from varying up their diets. I just I'm I don't like picky feeders. It's very irritating to have to deal with some of that. I mean, I have one male at this point to my left here who he's a bird guy, but he's full grown and everything is fine. So it's really not a problem, especially for me. Cause like I said, I breed quail. So, I have a pretty ready supply of them for him. But in the wild, they do eat birds. It's so from what I have heard from people who know more than me, I've never been over there, but um, they'll eat birds as they're migrating through, and then they'll also raid nests essentially. So when these birds are migrating through and they're nesting, these snakes will just sit under the nest and like wait for babies to fall out of the tree, literally, and
Oh,
just pick
cool.
them off one by one. Where they'll have like this string of baby birds in them. So they'll definitely eat birds in the wild. Mammals seem to be their primary diet, but you know, definitely scrubs eat birds. They love them too. So yeah, definitely nothing against. I mean, oftentimes for a tricky feeder baby, if they're not wanting to eat mice, soft furs, throw a quail in there, it's gone.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, they're I just started breeding quail a couple months ago.
Oh, cool.
and like I think I'm on my third clutch hatch right now. Like they're only a couple
Nice.
days old,
Cool.
and when I got them, I had to do some culling because I had too many males or whatever. This and
Mm,
that.
yeah.
And I definitely was like, what can I feed these things to? Like what and like the anaconda went crazy for them, and the
Perfect.
caiman goes fucking
Yeah.
crazy for anything, et cetera, et
Yes.
cetera. But even like the pituophis and the what too, like my garter snakes and water snakes go crazy for quail,
Yeah.
which doesn't surprise me because garter snakes and water snakes will eat fucking dirt. But
That they will.
a lot of people think that they're just like fish eaters. Meanwhile, like
Sure.
that those things try to eat me. So
Hmm.
they'll eat whatever. But so you want to? I do want to talk more about scrubs, but you have other snakes too. So you want to
Yeah,
talk
we can
to us
talk
a
about
little
whatever.
bit about the pituophis that you're working with right now? Because
Yeah.
I didn't look at how many days ago it was, but you got some crazy nice red hits. Are they northerns?
Yeah, I believe the one you're referencing. Yeah, red phase northern.
Yeah, I saw that thing, and I got my first pine snake for my collection. We had them at the zoo, but my for my collection a few months ago, Michael Gillen sent me a Kentucky because he's
Nice.
awesome, and that thing is like I'm scared to go in that part of the reptile room now because it's so mean. But that thing's a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
But man, that snake is so cool. And just you were talking about the scrub intelligence. I was really surprised at how smart that Kentucky seems to be. Like that
Mhm.
northern seems to be. Like that thing is
Yeah.
smart, and it doesn't try to hide it at all. But
Yeah.
you're how are you keeping your pituophis? Are you keeping them in similar enclosures to what you got behind you there, which are they look like
Yeah.
what are they PVC open like front top or not front top?
Mhm.
Sorry, glass
Yeah.
fronts.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I currently have my Pitchovis in racks, kind of like the big ARS tubs for my larger animals. A lot of them are still young, so especially with some like the northern pines and stuff like that. By the time they're adults, I'm definitely going to get them in some cages. But for now, they're doing great in these setups. But yeah, man, I love them. I've always loved Pitchovis. You know, since I was young, I've been around them, and the first ones that I got into as far as actually working with them on my own were the Mexican pine snakes, the Depii jani. To this day, probably still my favorite Pituophis overall. My female in particular is one of my favorite snakes. She's just to me like the best looking one I've ever seen. I just got super lucky to be able to get her. Um, but yeah, I mean northern pine snakes, it's really hard to beat them, man. I think they're as far as how they engage with you as a keeper and just how fun they are. I think it's right up there with Drymarchon as
oh yeah,
far as the kind of that style of colubrid, the intelligence, the visual orientation, and just how beautiful they are, how big they can get. Just it's a very kind of classic snake. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of them. I've put together a decent little collection of a bunch of different species and localities, and I'm probably close to being done adding to it because I look around and I'm like, I'm gonna have some big ass pine snakes in a few years.
yeah,
I don't know how
yeah,
many medium rats I want to go through every single week on pine snakes. So I want to add some Louisiana pines. I might just cap it at that. So
yeah. I'm even. I've got one. I run a lot of outreach programs, so like I got a pretty full house here. I have two reptile rooms. I've got the Natracine room, and then I've got the outreach room.
mhm.
And like the outreach room, I'm currently planning like to redo all my enclosures. I want to get everything in nice, bigger, nice. I want to build them myself. And I keep like for my northern, I kept thinking like, hey, what size do I want? What size do I want? I've ended on 6x2x2 is what I decided to go with, which seems
That'd be great.
huge, but like I know that thing is going to use every inch of it,
No question.
and the farther I can get away from it while I clean its shit, the better. But man, I've always liked the Pituophis, but like having one in under my own roof has definitely changed my appreciation to grow with them
Yeah, no
because
doubt.
man, they're super 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 rewarding, which piques my interest too. Because if you like them so much and you're like, man, scrubs are like super smart and rewarding too. Um, man, when we finally get some scrub guys in Canada, I'll have to find one of them too. Because I mean,
Yeah.
like I never use the animals that I'm quote supposed to for outreach. Like my main outreach snake is a fucking yellow anaconda. And I was gonna say I hate anacondas. That's not true. They just don't like me. I tend to have a bad relationship with anacondas, but she's been great. But it would be cool to get a scrub and show a scrub around. And you know that half the people aren't going to, or 90% of the people aren't going to appreciate it enough. But even just for me to be able to nerd out there and say, this is what this is, would be super fun.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, doing outreach, it's, a lot of it's keeping yourself like engaged with it. So if it's animals that you're excited to talk about, the people who are listening to you are going to be that much more engaged because you're engaged. So yeah, no doubt.
I have like one ball python for outreach, and it was because my fiance it's like I need to have that ball python. I was like, oh my god! And then whenever I post a picture of it on my Facebook, everybody makes fun of me. Python. So, which I'm pretty sure actually I was talking. I tagged Steven in a Instagram post that almost had nothing to do with him a couple days ago, just to let everybody know we were going to be talking to him. And I'm pretty sure I called him a ball python breeder in it, and I was hoping that people would kind of get pissed off at me, but nobody even saw it, so it is what it is.
They're probably like, oh, I guess they're talking about ball pythons. All right.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Go ahead, Brennick.
I was going to say, I think as for what we have available in Canada for scrub pythons, I've seen one Halmahera.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So.
Yeah, I've only
not too much.
One. I haven't looked though. Like I haven't asked around. Like there's guys working with like Cuban boas here, for example, like stuff that most Canadian herpetoculturalists wouldn't even know we have.
Sure.
So, or like ringed pythons and shit. Like,
yeah,
we're definitely behind you guys by a lot. And especially in terms of like species, we're still on, like it seems like, okay, when I say this, I know it's not true, but you know how like the ball python craze is kind of starting to die down a little bit. I feel like
what are you talking about?
I like it's starting like, okay, listen, you're selling scrub pythons, like you're having success with scrub pythons. It's got to be dying down a little bit, but I feel like we're still like 10 years off of that. Like when we have like our reptile expos, for example, it is still like, I know the US ones are also super heavy in the classic stuff that everybody wants, but like, oh my god, I don't think I saw anything. Like the last one I went to, I don't think I even saw like a garter or like I didn't see a pituophis. Like nothing. It was all garters, or not garters. Sorry, all balls and there was boas. Like it's all fucking boas.
A lot of the show promoters here, or at least the ones that run good shows, are being really particular about diversifying these days. Where I'm pretty sure they're turning back ball python breeders just because they don't want to be the ball python show anymore.
Yeah, so, I've heard that.
Which is, I mean, I'm personally glad. Like the show in Pomona in January, which has always been a diverse show, but I think was maybe the most diverse of that expo I've been to so far. And I was walking around like, this is fantastic. There's so many cool animals here. So, because shows took a real fucking downturn post COVID. Both from attendance standpoint and from just like the quality of the shows. And I think it was mostly, in my opinion, here in the States, because after kind of everything opened back up and we could have shows again, there were just a million shows all the time. Every weekend there were like dozens of shows in the country. So you just water it down to where it's not special anymore. So like, and frankly, a lot of, the market was super hot. So a breeder with niche stuff would have no reason to do an expo. But I think it's kind of coming back around now where the expos are starting to be back to kind of the standard that we kind of expected pre-COVID.
Yeah, I think it's also like a big part of it. I can only assume it's true for the States as well. The amount of ball python breeders that arose during shutdown was fucking crazy. Everybody everybody was getting into new hobbies, right? And I mean, like if you search snakes for sale, what are you going to find? So I don't blame any of these people for getting into ball pythons to start, because if you look up, I want to get into breeding snakes. Well, here's, and they're cheap to get into. to start at least. So there was tons of them, and then I feel like a lot of those people are now, if not already, they're starting to be like, okay, I'm done with these, or even trying to diversify. I think I heard a podcast recently. I couldn't tell you what one it was, but I'm pretty sure they had a guy on who was like, yeah, I started during that, like during shutdown with ball pythons. And then I got rid of all my ball pythons, and now I'm breeding so and so. I think he got into colubrids. I don't remember who it was. I wish I did, but yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how the next decade changes for all that kind of thing. And you were saying earlier that like um, there's like that interest for things like scrubs is only going to grow, right? Like now that things are
I
starting
think
to
so.
people, I really think so. Now and Pituophis too seem to be growing,
Mhm.
like interest in
Definitely.
them and the different rat snakes and stuff and hog noses,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah. No,
they're huge.
I agree. And, it's definitely for the best. No matter what that diversity is, the more diversity of species that are being worked with consistently in the hobby, it just, everything else rises. The high tide rises all ships, and is very real in this scenario as well. So yeah, I'm always like at Daytona, there was a breeder there who had like this cool diverse setup of water snakes that he had produced. And I'm like, I'm not even sure if I've ever seen an actual captive bred water snake in my life. Nonetheless, like an obviously very meticulously planned project, like something like that to me is just so cool. So, I love seeing
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Are you talking about Chris?
Chris,
Chris Montross? That sounds like Chris Montross's table. He's like
maybe.
the big water snake guy right now.
Okay, then probably so. Then
Yeah,
if you're betting at Daytona,
I
yeah,
think so.
I think
Yeah,
so.
Chris has really cool stuff. I'm not going to talk any more about water snakes though, because we won't stop. I was banned. I'm not allowed.
Yeah, you broke the seal of garter snake, and now here we are.
Well, we had yeah. I've decided that I'm not going to stop bringing them up every single episode, only because the paleo guy we had on brought them up without me. He found a way to bring up garter snakes while we were talking about fucking mosasaurs. So the floodgates are open. I'll talk about them whenever I want. We should
Hell
just do a whole garter snakes part 2 episode with Steven Kush, who I don't think owns a garter snake or a natracine. Am I
yeah.
wrong?
I
Yeah,
don't own any of those. I've worked with them in the past at my old job in
that's my
Chicago.
scrub python. My scrub python
Yeah,
is the garter snake. Yeah.
hey,
Do
good
you
reason.
have species? So you said that you're not interested really in working or at least breeding other pythons. Do you have species currently that you're not working with that you are like eyeing up for the future? I feel like that doesn't get talked
Well,
about enough. There's people like
yeah,
everybody wants to hear about what you have.
yeah. So I'm in an interesting kind of like point right now, mentally with my keeping, where I'm like not locked into this mindset for the long run, but I'm young, but I've been around the hobby for most of my life, so I've been very fortunate and blessed to have worked with like damn near every kind of reptile you can imagine. Um, and I've found what I really love, what my absolute favorites are. I mean, from almost any type of snake you can think of, venomous or non-venomous. Lizards, I'm lacking a little bit, but I've worked with almost every single monitor species in the hobby. Lots of geckos, turtles, tortoises, majority of the crocodilian species. Like I've seen a lot and interact with a lot. So I I've kind of narrowed it down to some of my absolute favorites, and now I'm just very focused on trying to get really good at these things, particularly the scrub pythons.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, not that my focus as far as my Spilotes, Pituophis, or Crotalus is any less than that. So I really don't have the impulse to get almost any more reptiles, period, at the moment. Actually, last year I reduced my collection by about a third. So and right now is the I have the smallest collection I've had since I lived with my parents at the end of high school, and I am probably the happiest I've been as a reptile keeper right now. So I just am really focused on these animals I have. The only thing I could really see getting are just more Somalia that I don't have. Some of the localities, that are unrepresented in the States, or just more of some of the ones that I have that I have very few of. Yeah, venomous wise, I'm good. Again, reducing on that as well. There's a couple localities, the spilotes, like the Tamaulipas animals that I would like to get. Like I said, Louisiana pine snakes. That's probably right about it, though, for
Yeah.
now.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's a really good place to, like, as you already obviously know, I think it's a really good and special place to be in, to get to a point where you're like, you know what?
I hate quarantining too.
Oh,
Quarantining is so fucking annoying.
Yep.
I'm like, I have all my favorite animals. I don't want to fucking deal with quarantine anymore. Like,
yeah,
so,
yeah. So I got almost completely out of the hobby a few years ago. I sold like I must have had the biggest garter snake collection in Canada. I don't think anybody had a bigger one. And that's not to say I had the huge 500 animal collection. It's fucking Canada and it's garter snakes. I didn't have to try hard to have the biggest.
yeah.
But I got rid of like almost everything, and I stayed out of the hobby for about 2 years, aside from doing some outreach stuff, and which is like one of the biggest regrets of my life. But now that I'm only kind of just getting back in over the last, I don't know, maybe 9 to 12 months. Like, so it's still pretty recently me coming back, but like me regrowing my collection of garters, which I don't know what it is about these animals in Canada. Anytime I get garters or waters from a person that's not the individual who bred them, they are in just the worst fucking condition ever. Like I don't understand how a snake so easy can be kept like such shit. And it's happened time and time again. And like I've done some imports because of that now, but like when I'm on the whatever Facebook groups or Kijiji, which is like our Craigslist, and see a garter snake, I'm going to try and get it. And it's just been crazy to me. And so I've had to do a shit ton of quarantine. And it is like, and I hate quarantining. I wish I could just throw them all into my room and be done with it.
I mean, you can. No one's stopping you.
I can, but I'm trying to be a good boy. I'm trying to be a good boy. But because I don't want to end up with my fucking snakes looking like these waters and garters that I'm getting it from.
100%.
People who are just, my God, it's such a pain.
I mean, my favorite animals I have are ones that I produced. So I'm like, let's just double down on that. You know, build my collection from the inside. I have more than enough genetic diversity that I'm good. Mm-hmm. So I can, if I can do that, I'm happy. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I've really had a fun time doing too is like I've only just got into like working with localities. So I've got a couple localities going of the stuff that I'm working with. Man, that's fun. And I'm lucky enough to have brought my own into captivity now that I'm working with and playing around with. And oh man, like there are some morphs of the species that I work with that I do want to get, but some of those localities, like from one lake to another, for example, are so fun, and they're so diverse. And to hear that about something like the scrubs, for example, is super interesting because, you have localities of retics and stuff, but, and I'm sure most species probably have some sort of diversification among the range.
Yeah,
but
no
to hear how strong it is and how phenotypically variable the scrubs are is also fun, like you said, because you're getting these F2 snakes and you're like, holy shit, like this can't get any better. Like,
well, that's one of the things that drew me to them the most, because there are two really easy comps of scrub pythons as far as other species go. One of them being retics, other one being green tree pythons. And from a range standpoint goes, like, I believe that there are scrubs everywhere there are green trees. They're not green trees everywhere there are scrubs, but then where scrubs and green trees don't overlap, then there's a little bit of overlap with the retics. But with the green tree pythons, obviously, they're one of the most classic species when it comes to locality variation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 5 to 10% variance from one locality to another at most. Not that there's not significant differences, but it's like, okay, green, kind of shade of green, and then blue or white or yellow, blacktail, not blacktail. With scrubs, it's like 90% phenotype variation from the Bird's Head Peninsula to the mainland, north to south to the islands. It's like they're so ridiculously different from one another that to me it just makes that part of it a whole heck of a lot more fun, because it's not like I'm in a room of a bunch of snakes that look the same. They look just so wildly different. They could all be, you know, they could be from different parts of the world for all I know, just based
Yeah.
on like, obviously body structure and all that's the same, but as far as their coloration and pattern goes, it's just they're so wildly different from one another. It's just really fun.
Oh yeah, I think definitely from the limited experience I have looking at the different, not scrub subspecies, but the localities, you could be like forgiven for looking at those animals and going, "Oh, those are two different species. They look like they're related,
Yeah,
but they look like they're different animals." And
sure.
that's cool. That's really cool, especially when you get to play around with it. Especially in your case, where you get to almost be the one to, I mean, not to blow smoke up your ass, but like pioneer this kind of part of the hobby, like,
Mm.
or at least help to, where
Yeah.
you're experimenting and seeing stuff that nobody's ever
Mhm.
seen, or at least people haven't seen in a setting like captivity or United
Yeah.
States. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's fun. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to pursue something like this. And when I found a genus that I'm like, wow, I really love these animals, to be at the forefront of it. Growing up in the hobby, I was around for like the real heydays of the ball python boom, and I started with ball pythons. I bred them for a number of years, and when I was first getting into them, I saw these combos and they're really cool, and I was learning about all the different morphs and everything like that. But then just doing some little like mock business plans and stuff like that, I'm like, how sustainable really is this? That this pairing this animal that came from what seems like a pretty simple breeding is like $5,000-6,000, but kind of anybody can do this if they wanted to. And what I kind of noticed early on with ball pythons was these recessive genes are going to be where it's at in the long run, because no one's focused on them. They're some of the coolest ones out there, and it's easy to give up on the projects because they take a really long time. That was right around the time when like Justin Kabelka was really establishing a stronghold as like one of the top guys. Fast forward 15 years later, man, if it's not a double recessive het for a third and a fourth, it's worthless at this point. Um, and to me, I'm like, it would be so cool to be on that cutting edge of a project where you're doing the stuff that's like pushing everything forward. Everyone's looking at you as like, man, what are they going to produce this year? I'm like, I want to find something that I can be in front of with that. I'm like, and it was never going to be ball pythons because I was so far behind. I didn't have the money to compete. And I frankly didn't really want to, because as I started experiencing other species, I'm like, ball pythons are cool, but like, I'm not, it's not for me at the end of the day. I want something that's a little bit more fun to work with. And then when I wouldn't even say I was necessarily even looking for something to do that with. I just had that idea in mind. And when I got to the scrub pythons, I'm just like, there might be something here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I always kind of talk about with my kind of journey into scrub pythons that I think was probably the best thing to have ever happened to me as far as they go was the first time I really was like actually offered a scrub python, or the thought of buying one came across, like I had to pass on it. It was at Tinley Park. A good friend of mine, David Newman, who was a chondro breeder who now does boas outside of Chicago. He was just holding this animal for a friend of his. It was a bar neck and a deli cup. It was a beautiful snake. And I knew about scrub pythons. I had listened to all the NPR episodes about them, but like I didn't really know about scrub pythons. And I already spent all my money for the weekend at Tinley. So whatever the $400 on the deli cup or whatever it was for the snake at the time, I just didn't have it. So I couldn't think too much about it. But that kind of stuck with me. And then like the next week, like at the back of class in school, like my phone under the desk, like looking up scrub pythons on my phone. And I found this blog post. It was on, I think, the Ball Python Forums UK. That was a breakdown. And still to this day, probably not to sound conceited, but aside from some of my videos I've made, the best actual breakdown you could see on the internet of all the different species and localities of scrub pythons. And I just saw how many there were, how variable they were. I'm like, whoa, this is what these animals are like. These are fucking badass. So I just anything I could find on the internet about them, I was just I was hooked. And I think if I had gotten that first scrub python kind of impulsively like that, I'm not sure if I would have had that kind of fire burning inside me to consume everything I could about them. That really, like, 6 months later at the next Tinley Park, when I actually got my scrub python, I think I was just infinitely more passionate and excited about it. Where, the previous show I had gotten a little bit of this, that, carpets, colubrids, white lips, and whatnot. That Tinley, I got my scrub python. I got a pair of inland carpets. I love inlands as well. But like, I was just like hyper focused on that. Like, I'm gonna get my scrub python at this show. Like, this might be my new thing. So, for anyone out there, if you get like drawn in by something, sit on it, take your time, research the hell out of it, because the gratification that's going to come when you actually go about it the right way, you might have found your thing. And if you approach it the wrong way, you might even miss the opportunity. So,
Yeah, that's good advice. I remember feeling that feeling for the first time, and it's definitely tempting to chase it too. It's very tempting, and thankfully, I had no money when I got that feeling for the first time, so I was able to
hey,
sit and just read fucking everything I could and watch
yep,
every video I could and talk
yep.
to people who didn't want to talk to me because I was 13 years old and wouldn't shut the hell up. You know what I mean?
Hey,
So,
I remember the days.
oh yeah, those are the days for sure.
Yep.
What
Fun.
was your first scrub python, Steven?
It was a bar neck, like a reduced pattern, what would have been referred to as like a maniquari type bar neck scrub.
Oh god, it's gonna
Yeah.
suck finding pictures of these localities, dude.
Uh, yeah, but he's an incredible snake. Sired multiple clutches for me, just a puppy dog. Yeah, I got so incredibly lucky with my first run of scrub pythons. They were just I mean, fantastic, perfect snakes. I got really lucky.
So
That's awesome.
with breeding them, how'd you kind of like figure it out and get it unlocked?
So my the story of my first scrub python clutch was, which to this day is still by the numbers my second best clutch. One of only three 100% hatch rates I've had. 11 babies. They were all fantastic. 8 right away. I didn't even know I had a pair until about a month before I put them together. So one of my first scrubs that I got was so it was supposed to be a female maniquari to go with this male. Well, actually, that the male that was a maniquari sold to me as a sarong. But the maniquari locality, the reduced pattern barnecks, were the scrub that really grabbed my attention first of all of the different scrub pythons. So I really wanted to get maniquaris, and an old dealer who we will not name for the sake of respecting ourselves today, had on his list female, whatever, like yearling maniquari scrub pythons. So I purchased one of those animals, and I was ready for what I thought a yearling was going to be. This animal was probably 4 or 5 years old. It was like 7 feet long. And I was just like, mind you, I'd been keeping scrubs for maybe 4 months at this point, and I'm in my parents' basement. I think I was like 16 or 17. I'm like, oh, fuck. I was like, what am I going to do with this animal? Turned out to like maybe have been my favorite snake I've ever owned. Like, this is going to be a little facetious, but I believe this snake genuinely enjoyed being handled. Like, couldn't wait for it. You just the sweetest snake I've ever had, and this an eventual sire of my first clutch. So I got the excuse like, oh man, I accidentally sent you my yearling holdback female, and I'm looking at this snake. I'm looking at my other ones like, they get this big in a year. I'm like abusing these little snakes that I feel like I'm feeding properly, which definitely was not that. It was probably a 4-year-old animal at the time. But anyway, so raised that one up for a while. And then at Pomona, January of 2019, Daniel Solis from the Reptile Factory had a couple of big adult females that he had brought to the show that he had raised up that he was selling, a Barneck and a Maruki. And I acquired those two animals, and I'm like, this is like a big jump up for me at that point, because I had some smaller scrubs. I'd been building my collection up. I probably had like 10 or 12 of them, but taking the jump to getting some adults was like, for me, it was a pretty big step. So I got these two. The Maruki, she was big. She was probably like 11 feet, maybe almost 12. The Barnick was probably about 9, but like an adult, and maybe even close to 10. So then, come the fall of that year, I had moved from Chicago to Indianapolis, and my female Maniquari shed the biggest sperm plugs you'd ever seen. And I'm like, oh, I have a pair. So a few weeks later, threw them together. And the thing that was just the funniest about this breeding was I had them in Christmas tree tubs.
Classic.
So no elaborate setup, no big PVC enclosure. Uh, you know, not how I would probably do it now, but it worked. And yeah, they locked the night I put them together. It was like the end of November. Um, yeah, one thing led to the next. Just kept feeding, kept pairing. You know, I didn't put any like forethought into it because I didn't even know that I had a pair. So I was just feeding them what I thought at the time was normal. I probably was feeding them a little bit too much, but not enough to where it affected them in any sort of way. The female developed. She bred, got dark, went off food, pre-lay shed, everything was perfect, dropped 11 perfect eggs, no issues. And then 3 months later, boom, 11 perfect baby Barnecks.
Nice.
So yeah, that was just like, I don't know, so crazy at the time. I had like the thought of breeding scrubs for me was years in the future. I'm like, I don't have like I have a couple adults. I don't have pairs. I don't have good enclosures. Like I'm still in the building process. And to be able to get a clutch for what I would probably have thought to be like 3 years ahead of schedule was freaking awesome. I mean, I wasn't even 20 yet when I had my first clutch of scrub pythons. So I was pretty stoked about that at the time.
That's
And still
awesome.
am. Yeah. And those animals are actually breeding now, those babies.
Oh, no
So
way.
that's pretty damn cool. Yeah. It's an awesome
Did
feeling.
you hold back all 11?
At first I did, and then I slowly let some go as I acquired more animals, as I had more breeding success and had more holdbacks. But I currently have 3.3 of the clutch.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay,
One
that's
animal, one male actually sent out and got back. So
score.
yep. Yep. No doubt. He's a beast of a breeder too. So I'm glad I have him.
Yeah. So what size are the scrubs maxing out at? You keep mentioning like 9, 10, 11 feet ish,
Yeah.
like max.
So, they can get very large. But as is with all of these, Australian, Indonesian pythons, there's a difference between how big they can get and how big they should get. Um, I think people can take it too far and underfeed their snakes. But what I kind of say as a general rule, a healthy, well-fed scrub python, when you exclude tannenbars and halmaheras, roughly a 10-foot long snake.
Okay.
A 12 foot scrub python minus the Australian scrubs, the King Horneye, that's like it's like a 6'8" person. Like, do they exist? Sure, there's some of them, but not many. Like,
Hmm.
there are not that many that should get that big. Some will just naturally grow that big, no matter how much you feed them, but it's rare. 9 or 10 feet, generally speaking, is what I think a good adult size is. Look at the Halmaheras, kind of go about 8, Tannenbars 6 or 7. Um, so, but yeah, a big snake, but not a giant.
That's manageable. That's a good size,
Yeah,
especially like the
yeah.
like 8 to 10. It seems nice.
And once you get 11, 12, even a little bigger, you run into breeding complications. They're fat at that point. Like, there's no two ways about it. If they get that big, unless they're a genetic outlier, they've been overfed, and overfed scrub pythons are not good breeders. So there's no real reason to get a scrub that big. It just hurts. It hurts you and it hurts the animal as well. It hurts their longevity.
Yeah.
Steven, me and Braden here are size queens. So tell them about your big one.
What the
Well,
hell, man?
hey, after hours is
Wait,
officially
hold on.
started.
Hold on.
We're
Hold
in
on.
we're in the second hour, so
Wait, hold on. I'm just looking for something here. Okay, I'm trying. I was trying to find a laugh on these new sounds, but I can't find it. But I found this instead. Okay, tell us about your big one.
Well, if I know the animal that I think you're referencing, unfortunately that one passed a couple years ago.
Smooth
I,
running.
I did I did have a bar neck that was legitimately all of 14 feet long for a while,
Whoa.
and monster, monster of a snake. Yeah. So, and with not a great attitude to go along with it. He was
Hell yeah.
when I unbagged that snake, I genuinely had a moment of like, I don't know if I'm prepared for this. Like, have I gotten in over my head? But I luckily was able to figure it out. But yeah, he was freaking awesome. My biggest scrub right now is a Moluccan that's about 12 feet, and
Damn.
I mean his head's size of my fist. Like he's a beast of a snake. I acquired him about that size too, so this wasn't one that I raised. But yeah, I have four scrubs that are like in the 11 to 12 range. That's it. The rest of them are like, you know, 10, 9, maybe like 10 and a half on some of the bigger females.
Yeah, that's a good size. 14 feet. Jesus, did it come
He
through
was,
that big?
yeah, he was that. I mean, the snake was probably over 20 years old when I got it. It was, yeah,
Whoa. Do
yeah.
you think, like obviously, like you have animals that I assume you may have for 10, 15 years if you keep going. Do
Mhm.
you anticipate any of those reaching lengths over time of 12 plus feet? Or do you
I
think that
mean, I
was
guess
a genetic outliner despite the age?
I think that animal was a genetic outlier and also was fed a lot
Okay.
by two owners ago.
Hmm.
Um, the owner that had it before me, like, probably hardly ever fed the snake, for better or worse. Probably for better at times, but um, really thinned him out. But yeah, an animal like that is a real outlier. But I guess it remains to be seen. I definitely have seen just in different clutches, you'll get different rates of growth, different periods. Some will lag, some will catch up. Um, like that clutch that I referenced that I had in 2020. There's one female that's like a good, like, 6 inches to a foot longer than all of her siblings and like a little bit more filled out on the same exact feeding schedule, approximately, of course, throughout their lives. So there's a little bit of variation, and it'll be cool to see over time what happens. Obviously, with all animals, with all reptiles, they will keep growing at a very slow rate their entire lives. So yeah, maybe by the time they're 20 years old, they will be pushing 12 feet. For all I know, that could very well be the case.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And it's also interesting too because that's all stuff you can not like you can figure out, right? Like it's still
Oh yeah,
a new pro. No, I don't want to say a new project. Like you're obviously
yeah.
experienced and
Well,
whatnot, but it's not. I don't think
no one's
anybody
really seen it
is.
through.
Yeah, exactly. So I
I
think that'll
mean,
be really fun.
the first scrubs were bred sometime between like 95 and 2000 in captivity. I guess in the US, I have to imagine in Australia they were doing it long before then. Um, so as far as the reptile industry goes, it's still fairly new, and there have been very few multiple generation animals ever produced. So yeah, I mean, you know there's not some breeding program that you can plug and play that works. I mean, they breed like really any other python for the most part, so it's not like it's rocket science. But they seem to be a little more challenging than, say, retics or carpet pythons or green trees or whatever it may be. But that could also just be we're not very many generations deep. Maybe F4 animals will breed like retics. Remains to be seen. So yeah, that's one of the things that kind of excites me the most about it is being able to like experience constantly experience new novel things with these snakes that there really isn't much documentation of before it. So yeah, that's feels cool to be on the cutting edge of a project like that, and especially with animals that mean so much to me.
Yeah, no, that's a special feeling. Brennick's kind of shit out of luck because his project he wants is cycler, and we're in Canada, so Eh. We have a
Yeah,
hard time with cyclura here.
yeah, I can imagine.
But I mean, you got your retics and stuff too, right, Brennick?
Yeah, yeah,
And
but
your BIs or whatever, or BC,
BCC,
BCs.
yes.
Yeah, I don't have any. All of my snakes like that, except my Hog Island boa, are all just for outreach.
Yeah,
I'm not really
cool.
wanting to breed any of the big guys. Although I do really like my yellow anaconda, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, they're neat snakes, no doubt.
They're cool. They're smart too. Like I always kind of thought like anacondas, like
Oh yeah,
like, and no man,
they're
this thing
cunning.
is she's smart and
They're,
energetic, and
yeah, they're devious snakes.
they are devious.
They're
Man,
sneaky.
I hate that. I don't like when you say you've taken a couple bites from scrubs every year.
Yeah, sure.
This is going to be a weird question. What's their bite style? You know how different large constrictors,
Yeah,
they seem to bite differently. How do they do it? Is it
typically just like a tap.
yeah, just like biting
Yeah,
off. You know how
yeah.
like
Sometimes if they're like really pissed, they'll like, they'll kind of give you
yeah,
a little like follow through on it, like fuck you. Um, but they're not. They'll sometimes sneaky bite. I've maybe had like one or two, but it's not a sneaky bite if you know how to read the behavior. They don't do the Woma python, king snake, sometimes anaconda bullshit of the random feeding response bite like 10 minutes into handling the snake. Um, but yeah, typically it's just like defensive bites. I've taken a couple, no, one feeding response bite from a scrub, and I was going fast. I was in a top tub and it just shot past the tongs and got my hand. It was a young animal, so it wasn't that bad. But just totally just me going too fast. So
yeah. I hate not more than anything else when anacondas do that stupid side bite where they just get startled by something of nothing. Like it's always like fabric or like my arm hairs. I don't know what the hell it is. And then they're just like they'll do a little side, they let go, and then they're fine. And they always break teeth off when they do it to me, and it's like
yeah,
Hmm.
it pisses me off.
yeah.
So
I don't like snakes that do. I don't like keeping snakes that do stuff like that. I can
I hate
appreciate
that.
them, but that's why I never kept Aspidites. Just all the stories of all the. I guess one was more than blackheads, but I just not for me.
Yeah,
I got
I
to
feel
give
like
my wife a shout out. She was showing off her Aspidite Ramsay to one of her friends,
Mm,
and it was great for 5 minutes. And I'm at work driving a bus, and essentially, it sneaky bit her and just held on for like a half hour. And she's like, "I don't know what to do." I should preface this by saying
mm,
she's a cat person. She's new to the whole reptile thing, so
but still, if it was
she's
a ball
blowing
python,
me
I
up.
wouldn't have done that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like every photo I see of Aphrodite is like wrapped around somebody these days. Like half the pictures I see of them, I don't really
Yeah.
go out of my way to look at. I like them. I don't really go out of my way to
Oh,
look at
I
them.
mean, they're beautiful
They're
snakes. I mean, and
fantastic
they're
snakes.
they're very interesting. A python without heat pits, like
Hmm.
just very fascinating. The ecological niche that they fulfill. The way the blackheads bask, just sticking their head out, like
Yeah,
they're fascinating snakes. Just not for me.
I think they feel cool too, which might sound weird, but I think they're a very
Mhm.
cool feeling snake.
Hey,
Except when they bite and wrap you. Then
yeah, that's one of the things I love about scrubs as well. Like they feel like velvet.
yeah,
The way that their scales are very deep and overlap. It's like just one solid. They're kind of matte finish on them. Yeah, just I another thing about scrub pythons that if you're a tactile person, it's a cool snake.
that stuff is worth talking about too because not a lot of people think about those
Sure.
aspects of snakes and
Yeah.
like they almost like scrubs look like a snake that somebody had painted. If that makes sense. Like
Yes,
paint us, they're
100%.
very cool that way, and I think that's really cool. And but
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I like baby. Like that is like how baby boas are almost velvety. I love
Mhm.
the way baby boas
Yeah.
are like that. My hog island's still like that because she's only like 3.5, 4 feet. But
Nice.
like yeah, that weird stuff like that is definitely and then I've got all these natricines and I interact with them and they're all keeled and they're not very nice to touch, but
Yeah.
they're not soft.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I like my rattlesnakes for leaving them be like that. I don't have a whole lot of need to touch the keeled kind of
Yeah,
rough animals.
yeah.
Nothing against. I mean, it's cool. Like I love my Pituophis too, but yeah, I
Yep.
do like that aspect of scrubs.
Yeah.
I want to know about your Mangshans. I love
Yeah,
Mangshans.
you do it. Yeah, they're. I mean, they're amazing. They're so like they're one of the most iconic snakes in the entire world, in my opinion.
I'd say
Did
you're
you get
right. Yeah,
those
for sure.
from Tom?
I did.
Yep.
Yeah, I did.
Ooh.
So
I
yeah,
didn't even know you had them. Just I don't not to cut you off. Are they from his adults or are they just ones he's produced?
I'm not sure actually. They actually never produced them. They were
Okay,
ones
okay.
that they had imported from Europe and had raised for a number of years. And I ended up getting two adult pairs. I ended up selling one of the pairs this year just to kind of really focus on one of them. So I had three pairs of Mangs for a while. Now I just have one pair that I'm just like, all right, this is a side project, so I don't need a bunch of them. Like, let's just have one to focus on. I'll enjoy them all the same. So, but they're so incredible. They're badass.
I
Yeah,
was gonna
that's
say,
so
what's it
cool.
like working with them? They seem like really fast and like really on point.
So once they reach adulthood, they really mellow out. They're very smart, and kind of like what I was saying with the scrubs, they get very accustomed to how you work them. So especially being in West Texas, it's very dry out here. I spray them pretty much every day during the winter. During cool down, I'll decrease the spray to decrease humidity, but during the spring, summer, fall, I'm spraying them daily and open the enclosure all the way up, spray them with the mister, and they just sit there. When I first got them, they were a little bit more hesitant about what I was doing, but over time, just have really gotten accustomed. Babies are little spitfires. They're kind of scary, honestly. Like they'll do like the full body S up. They'll like kind of their jaw like splays out a little bit, throw these giant strikes. The inside of their mouth is white, kind of like a cotton mouth. It's like um, big ass teeth. So yeah, they're nothing to mess with. But once they get to adulthood, as a whole, they mellow out. Babies are just universally bitey, but obviously the smaller viper, double hook it, put some distance between yourself and the snake, and um, they're not as much runners. They're more stand their ground when they're not feeling you there, which is kind of nice. I've never had one like shoot out of the enclosure or anything like that. So
Definitely
Okay.
appreciate that because won't name names, but I saw a guy recently almost get railed by one.
That would suck.
Hands in the cage, pulling stuff out, not paying
no,
attention to the animal.
couldn't be me. Yeah, they're. I know a couple people who have been bitten by Manxians. I don't believe there has been a recorded human death from one, but I don't doubt that they could.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't
So,
fucking try or risk it. That's for
no,
sure.
and especially like a bigger one, like they gotta yield on them. They got a head the size of a fucking Eastern Diamondback sometimes. So like I mean, not like the giant East, but like a 6 foot Eastern Diamondback, it's the same size head. So they're yeah, they're nothing to mess with, but they're just incredible. They're really just some of the most, like I said, iconic. Just you know, they're like that Vietnamese mossy frog pattern. Just they're mesmerizing.
Oh, man, imagine an enclosure where you put those two species in together. That'd
I
be
bet it would work,
so
especially with
fucking
enough
cool.
space. Yeah,
Yeah.
they totally could.
Find the snake and find the frog. Good luck. Fuck you. That'd be
Yeah,
like the worst zoo enclosure ever.
and I doubt the snakes would try to eat the frogs,
I don't think so.
especially like if you had like with adults, just they're like, yeah, give me a chick, give me a rat. I don't want to mess with this little frog.
Yeah,
So
I can't even see it. Looks like me. They're hiding on my back. That'd be cool if the
true,
frogs started hiding on the snakes. That's
that'd be a
awesome.
cool picture, like a mossy frog sitting on a Mangshan's head,
That is a good idea. Someone's got to go and do that.
just very gently place it on your
Yeah,
Mangshan and go take your picture, and then remove it from your Mangshan.
remove it. Yeah, that's
Nothing
the
could go
scary
wrong.
part. Hmm. I'll have to hire somebody to do that. I don't think Steven's going to do it.
No,
Don't forget, kids, follow your protocols and use your tools.
Yeah, man. When I was working at this little store called the Reptile Store, which is where I met Brennick, we had this guy who would like there's no like you can't legally have venomous in Ontario, and I mean it's almost we had this one guy who would keep it anyway, right? And
there's
he
always that
would
one.
oh yeah, there's a few. but this guy was not quiet about it, and he would every I don't know 4 months just bring in something fucking weird and be like, "Hey, you want to see this?" And we're all like, "Yeah, well, obviously take a look at it because we don't in Canada get to." It was a little different when I started working with zoos, but in this setting, we didn't get to see a lot of venomous stuff unless it was in a zoo, and it was never anything crazy like Mangshan's because it's Canada. But I remember he brought in a pair of gaboons, and he brought them in a big like blue tote, and he was like, he opened it with his hands, and this tote was only like 10 inches tall, and they were adults,
Oh
and
God.
there
Yeah.
was it was I'll never forget it because I got nowhere close to this fucking bin. It was full of coconut fiber and leaf litter and 2 adult gaboon vipers. And I could not see them. And I was like, dude, I said to him, are you like, you opened that with your fucking hand? Are you crazy? I haven't heard from that guy in like 10 years. He's probably dead. But he brought a bunch of weird shit over. And it just reminded me of what you were saying, Brennick. Sometimes you see videos all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
The way that I look at it, if you want to handle a snake, get a non-venomous snake.
yeah, or
Don't
at
be
least
negative.
like
There's a lot of them out there.
if you have to handle a venomous snake, get like a garter snake or a mangrove snake.
Yeah, for real. Get yourself a mangrove or
Yeah,
something
get a
like
boy
that. Yeah.
But how's or hog nose?
There you go. They're like,
Perfect.
it's not venomous enough for me.
Yeah, I
Don't
need
tell
something.
hog nose thing.
Oh, I just like to feel the animal in my hands.
Like what? Like I want like to maybe die. Like that would be so
Yeah,
cool if that happened. Maybe.
yeah. And then they'll get but those people always get something fucking insane. Like it's never like yeah, I got a copperhead. If I get bit, I'm gonna have a really shitty few days, or weeks, and and if you're in the States, a really big bill. It's always like, yeah, I
Yeah,
got like,
that's the thing that I don't understand. Like I don't handle my venomous snakes for lots of reasons, but maybe the main reason is I don't want to spend that kind of money
yeah, it's expensive. I've
on
seen
my,
bills from that. Like,
especially because I have mostly snakes that are covered by crowfab, which in the US is fucking insanely priced.
yeah,
So yeah, it's cheaper to get bit by an exotic venomous. It's harder to find anti-venom for it, but yeah, my solution is none of the above. That's what I'm going to stick with.
my mentor Steve, he went to Costa Rica and he got bit by a fertilance
Ooh,
or whatever the hell they're called these days. I
yeah.
think they, but he's a big guy, and he was like bleeding out of every hole. Fucking walked back to like the hotel or whatever, and he showed me his bill after, and holy fuck, dude.
Isn't it
And
something like $100,000 a vial?
it was,
No, I don't think that much, but like,
I think in total it can add up to like $100,000.
oh yeah, sure. If you need like double digit vials, but yeah, they're I don't know exactly these days, but they're like thousands of dollars a vial for crowfab. And some of the exotic stuff is not quite as expensive, but you need I think it's USDA permitting to possess it. And then importing it is one challenging to get the suppliers to sell to you in the first place if you're not a zoological facility, and then you know they're not always fully stocked with it either. Obviously it's not the easiest thing to produce in the world. So yeah, if you're gonna keep venomous, just the best thing to do is just to not get bit to begin with.
Yeah, or just don't keep them. Look at
Or that. Yeah, that's the
Steven's
best way to not get
Instagram.
bit by a venomous snake is to not keep a venomous snake. 100%.
I had venomous very briefly. I didn't have anything crazy, but I very quickly was like, I'm not so sure if this is worth it. So I got rid of everything, but
Yeah. I'm glad I have what I do. The Mangshans are the only animals that I really have that I like when I'm handling them, would tail. And then my rattlesnakes, like there are some rattlesnakes that I have not removed from their enclosures since I moved into my house 2.5 years ago.
I can see why.
They just, I set them up all naturalistic and cool and spot clean around them, feed them, watch them. And that's
Yeah.
about it. So no need.
They are cool animals to watch for sure. I'm fucked if I were to get bit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm so screwed,
Yeah. I
especially
mean,
where I live now.
I reduced my venomous collection by about half. So there was a while where I had quite a few. And after a bit, I'm like, what's the point? Why do, like every additional snake I have is just increasing the chances of a mistake happening. And especially like to have them all in one room. Like if I'm in there, I'm going by the protocol of this room. Like if they're all over the place, I just feel like I might have a mental lapse more easily. So, um, yeah. And then honestly, I've been enjoying it way more with less as I've been learning about really everything. Less is more across
Oh
the
yeah,
board.
yeah, for sure, absolutely.
You guys ever see the guy who was free handling his venomous, and he's like, "Ah, if you have anti venom, you're a pussy."
That
I
guy's
forget that
badass.
guy's name.
Which one? Yeah. I've
There's
seen
probably a
him.
few that do that. I remember
I
a
think he
bunch.
got bit by an inland taipan like last year, the year
Like,
before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a guy. And got out of the hospital, lived, kept
yeah,
doing it.
yeah,
of course,
yeah.
that's how you know he's not a pussy. Is he kept to his
Yeah.
fucking guns?
He's either not a pussy or severely mentally ill or both.
Yeah,
I'm schizophrenic and not a pussy.
yeah. You see that guy? I have him on Facebook, Tim Freed, and he like injects himself with the venom. Have you seen that guy?
I believe so. Yeah. Hey man, that's like, I don't know. I oftentimes equate like being a venomous keeper, like a hardcore venomous keeper, to being like a professional bodybuilder. Like you are in the pursuit of what you're doing at the highest level, just like destroying your life potentially.
Yeah,
I got to give you a lot of credit for the commitment to the craft. Like,
yeah.
you know, couldn't be me, but hey, if that's your life, man, credit to you because that fucking takes some sacrifice that most people should not make.
They
But
they yeah. I don't know.
on top of it, it just like it paints such a negative picture of the rest of the hobby, not just venomous keepers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
especially when they get bit.
it does. Yeah, it's and the unfortunate thing is these people who do the whole free handling thing, the ultimate reason for it is for the attention. So when anyone goes on these big like social media crusades to call out a free handler, that's the goal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's exactly what they want to have happen. Is for everyone to be talking about them. So like I did a whole podcast about like, hey, what should we do about this? I'm like, stop talking about it. You
yeah.
want to go away? Ignore it.
Just ignore it.
If the views go down, if the money isn't there, what the hell are they doing it for? It's like this. It's the
Because they're
same
not a
type of
pussy,
thing as
Steven.
like I guess. I guess I'm just maybe I'm a pussy if I'm not sure. It's not as important to me to not be a
Yeah,
pussy. Um, but yeah, it's like it's an addiction at the end of the day. They're doing it for the endorphins, and part of that is how everyone reacts to it. So if you eliminate that aspect of it, take away some of the motivation to do it in the first place. So
yeah.
the
for
problem
sure.
is Brenda down the street with her Shih Tzu sees it and will always react.
Sure.
It's
Yeah. I
not
mean,
not people like us that are like, "Oh, that's so cool," or
yeah. But the more engagement it goes on social media, the better chance of it hitting eyeballs you don't want it to, just
yeah.
by the nature of how the algorithm works these days. But yeah, there's not a lot we can really do about it. At the end of the day, it's gonna happen one way or another. So
No, I
you
think
know,
making a big stink about it's not going to do anything against it. So,
no, definitely not.
I
Never
mean,
has, never will.
if it did, it would have done it by now, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. It's just it's changing the currency of like what gets that attention, what gets that engagement, and it's not an easy thing to do, but you can vote with your dollar, vote with your views and your clicks and whatnot, and support what you want to support. And if you don't support it, ignore it. It's the best thing to do,
yep. Watch from a distance.
unless it's like truly something abhorrent that needs to be called out, abuse or something serious.
Yeah,
People fucking people over, abusing animals, abusing other people in the community. Like that, that's one thing. But like, just someone who's being a piece of shit, just fucking ignore it. That's the best way to get them to go away. Is just stop looking at them.
one thing I noticed too, and this has nothing to do with the whole free handling thing, but when I got back into the hobby, one of the it wasn't the main reason I got out of it, but one of the main reasons was how dramatic the hobby could be. And I really at that point, maybe it's because I was younger or what, not that I'm old now, but I really let it get to me. And it was I found myself engaging too much in drama
Mhm. Yeah.
and contributing to it in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of that even like ended up leading to a ridiculous ego that I not only hadn't earned but was unnecessary for what I wanted from the hobby. So I think that 2 year break really grounded me when I came back and got me to a point where it's like I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Like I just want to play with my stuff and talk to cool people who know more than me about shit that I really am interested in, right? And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
meet people who have similar interests. And if you want to just, you know, gatekeep or just be an asshole to somebody because they bought a ball python and are keeping it on a red light, go fuck yourself. I'm not interested. I'd rather talk to that person and figure out what they want and how they
Yeah.
want to.
You know, what I found in the hobby over the years, and especially when I was like 17, 18, 19, kind of really like, you know, meeting a lot of people, the people who you want to know, people who you want to be friends with, the people who are going to really uplift you, they're not engaging in any of that bullshit.
Yeah,
People who
exactly.
are engaging in that shit are not worth the time of day. Um, so, you know, it's easy to get bogged down by it all, but if you can take a step back and you know, do a little critical thinking, get a little perspective on it, it's like that's you know, it's like with anything. It's if it's amplified, it just seems like it's much more of a big deal than it really is.
Mm.
But if you look at like some big dramatic post that blows up with hundreds of comments and tons of interaction, if you really look at it, for the most part, a post like that is like 5 to maybe 15 people spending every waking moment of their day just going in on this. It's not a really big deal in the grand scheme of things. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you can keep yourself out of drama, surround yourself with good people, and just like try your best to be a positive member of the community, you know, you'll find yourself some good people, and you'll see less and less of the drama over time. I hear about stuff that happens, and I'm just like I have a friend call me and be like, "Oh, did you hear about this?" I'm like, "No,
I'm so out
I
of the
did."
loop now,
Like
man.
I did now. You know, like I got to kind of be in the loop with all like doing podcasts and doing social media and stuff like that. But like, you really can kind of stay out of the loop almost entirely with a lot of shit that doesn't matter if you
Yeah.
just don't engage it. And that's the beauty of like the algorithms these days. They suck for a lot of reasons, but like you don't see posts that you don't interact with. So the less you interact with those type of posts, the less they'll come up on your feed. So you can kind of like game the system a little bit to have minimal, you know, visibility to that type of bullshit. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. My philosophy and outlook on my position in the hobby has definitely changed in coming back to where basically went from I want everybody to know me as this, and I want this to be my reputation to now I'm like I'm very much in like I want to keep the animals I like and I want to fuck around and have fun and fuck with people in a not toxic way
yeah,
and just have fun. You know what I mean? Like I'm just here now to have fun, and I think that's been a lot healthier for me, and also just more rewarding with,
yeah,
and also healthier. Like definitely a
sure,
better mindset. Like it got to a point where I didn't even want to come down here. Like it was just felt like a chore. And
yeah,
so to be able to be rid of that feeling is really nice because nobody should be feeling like
yeah.
that
You know,
because of bullshit.
one of the things that a lot of new keepers should really try to realize: nobody's a big deal in our industry.
Nope.
There was really only one person who was ever a big deal in our industry, and that was Brian Barczyk. And he was a very normal, regular guy. And like I was very fortunate to be able to spend some time around him and realize like, you know, shouldn't I mean, this is like nothing against him. Like there's no one who needs to be revered with what we do. Like we're all the same. There's just some people who have been doing it longer, have become more successful, have gotten more notoriety. But at the end of the day, like we're all just animal lovers, and we're just doing this thing that we enjoy together. Like, don't, I would very highly kind of advise everyone, don't idolize anybody, don't have heroes in this hobby. Have people you look up to, have people whose work you admire, sure thing, but don't like hold anybody on a pedestal. There's no pedestal to be had. If anybody wants to be on a pedestal, they're not the type of person you should want to, be involved with, take advice from, whatever that may be. Anybody who has some giant ego, they think they're the shit because of whatever the hell they've done. That's a damaged person who you probably are very well to stay away from. There's some people like that in this hobby who've done some really awful things to a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So, uh, you know, there's some people who have been wildly successful for decades in this industry and would be, considered like a legend, who are just as normal and regular and chill as the next guy. Those are the type of people who I want to be around. Those are the type
Mhm.
of people I want to learn from. So,
Yeah.
don't idolize anybody, but like, not to say don't look up to anybody. There's plenty of people that I look up to in the hobby, but as soon as you create that kind of complex, there's only disappointment to be had there.
Yeah, especially when you idolize reptile clout. I always found that really funny. Like reptile clout is like,
Yeah.
and a lot of the people who have reptile clout or whatever kind of act like they're have some sort of thing, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell, I feel like pretty easily, especially with the kind of more influencer type YouTube people. Like, there's some that are very successful that are just nerds like the rest of us who just happen to have gained a big following. And then there are some who use this as a conduit to gain that big following.
For sure.
And it's
Yeah.
really easy to pick out who's who, like, especially if you know what you're looking for.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm friends with plenty of people who have big social media followings and whatnot, but generally speaking, that's not my circle. I just, using the animals for the sake of being a YouTuber or whatever, or being a TikToker, it doesn't. There's nothing about that makes me be like, I want to be friends with that person. There's
Mhm.
nothing to be gained from that, and not the type of person who's actually like passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like the guy who, sits in the park with a big berm or a big BCC and is like, look what I got. Come take a picture.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I was going
Yeah,
to say,
except where
I
we're
sound
from,
like
Brennick.
that type of guy, but I don't have it. I
No,
don't do
except
that.
where we're
Don't
from,
do
he
that.
has a crack pipe in his other hand. That's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
even joking. Like,
I know.
where we're from, I don't know about over there, but holy shit, man! The people walking around with reptiles in Hamilton, Ontario. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anybody anywhere walking around with a reptile being like, that guy's kind of like, he's cool and
Yeah, it's
intelligent, and
cool.
like, that's a scientist right there. Like,
That's the same guy who would tell me the last time that happened to me. It's been a while. I saw a guy walking around with, I don't know, it was like a bearded dragon or something. Which on like whatever, if you want to take your bearded dragon around the block to get it some sun, cool. I don't like that's fine. But he was telling me about his 6 foot Savannah monitor, and I remember being like 12, looking at him, like just wanted to be like, "You're so full of shit, dude!" Like, whatever.
You guys want a bus driver story?
Oh my god, you have a
Let's do it.
reptile bus driver story?
I have a reptile bus driver story.
no shit.
So I pull up to the stop. This girl's got like a clear backpack on the front. She's got 2 palmetto corn snakes and a crack pipe hanging out of her mouth.
Oh my god, that is awesome. Did you take a picture of her?
No.
Why the
No.
fuck do we have Steven Kush on the podcast? I want her on the podcast.
Break the internet with that one, man.
That would be
Right?
awesome.
That's pretty fucking awesome.
It's like
Like corn snakes.
those are nice palmettos, but you can't come on here with that.
With the crack pipes or the snake?
No, you can come on with the snakes. Like I've had
Okay.
people get on my bus with like a hog nose, and I'm like, "Oh, sweet, can I see that?" They're like, "What? You're not scared?" I'm like, no. Let me see it.
Funny. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one. I don't think I've seen any reptiles on public transportation, but
I was the guy bringing
I don't doubt
reptiles on public transportation, except I was
it.
trying to hide them in a pillowcase because I was bringing them home
Yeah,
where I
fair
had
enough.
a car.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying not to
That's
let the
funny.
bus driver know because it wasn't Brennick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always educate. I'm like, it's very cold for that animal to be outside. You should definitely not have it out here.
Oh.
Leave it at home. Keep it warm. Give it love.
I hope
Mhm.
that worked. I don't think so, though.
No, because
You-
10 minutes later, they're sitting in the back of the bus just drooling.
Did you guys
It's
see
not
that
correct.
tegu that was found, like buried under snow recently?
No.
You guys didn't hear about that? Here, let me pull it up quick before we peter out here.
Jeez.
It was recently.
Up in Canada?
I don't think it was Canada.
Oh.
A large tegu lizard was discovered buried under 20 inches of snow in Providence, Rhode Island, after a recent winter storm, prompting a rescue and veterinary care. A man showing his driveway in Providence found the exotic lizard struggling to crawl out from beneath the snow. Blah blah blah. A lizard named Frankie was brought inside and wrapped in a T-shirt to help it conserve heat. I know it got frostbite on the tip of its tongue. Oh, little baby. And I think it had to get some stuff amputated. I'm not sure what, but
Jeez.
20 inches of snow. Can you believe that? And I saw.
Just shows how resilient they are. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yep. And I saw a like a follow up on, like, I don't know, when I'm at work I'll like look at the stupid news on the computer, and I saw another thing on it, and I guess he's healing up nicely, but
That's good.
yeah, 20 inches of snow in
Dang.
Tegu. No crack.
Yeah, that's
Probably weren't far off, but
damn.
before we peter out here, do you want to tell us just quickly a little bit about your podcast and what you do about it?
Sure. Yeah. So my podcast is called Kush's Korner. It's on the Trap Talk Reptile Network. And, it's no real theme to my show. I just kind of talk to a bunch of people that I'm interested in about whatever it may be from within the industry. I did that kind of intentionally to not like have a show that's about scrub pythons or whatever it may be, kind of give myself the opportunity to kind of talk about a little bit of this and that. Talk to OGs in the industry, young up and coming keepers, everybody in between, about tons of different subjects. So I love doing it. I've been doing it a little over 2 years now. I've been doing reptile podcasts for going on 6 years, but that was back during the unfiltered podcast days, and I wasn't necessarily the host on those shows. So it's a little bit of an easier job. So it was a transition to being a solo host on a show, but it's been very rewarding and been a super fun time. So I love it. I love doing it.
Yeah, it's definitely a medium that we're basically experts now. Brennick and I think this is I couldn't tell you what episode this is, 7 or something. So
Hell yeah.
we're basically huge, and it's definitely been a really it has been fun talking to people, and we've been talking to weird people too. Our next episode before yours is a guy who studies pike, so it doesn't even have anything, has nothing to do with reptiles. So
that's cool.
Super fucking excited about that one.
It's awesome.
But you're man, I was listening to your podcast a couple weeks ago. I'm not a big I'm trying to be, especially now that we're doing the podcast, but I'm not a big consumer of reptile media. Like,
me either.
I never consume reptile YouTube, almost, unless I'm like looking for a weird niche person who has a very specific video. Like, you ever have tech problems and you search up tech problems and there's some guy with a 30 fucking second YouTube video about that problem. So it's, unless it's stuff like that, I really don't like consuming reptile YouTube. Podcasts I like it better. I read a lot, but I was listening to some of yours because Michael Gillen sent me one of your episodes. He sent me your one on Cyclura.
Okay. Terry Collin.
Yeah, and that episode was awesome. That episode was sweet, and it was really funny to hear that guy talk. And he definitely was. That guy was an old timer. He was badass. But
Terry's as old timer as it gets. But I've never met anybody who knows more about reptiles than him. So
that was really
cool
episode, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. but I wanted to listen to the Anaconda. I think you did an Anaconda 1 or 2 with him
Yep.
as well, and I want to get to those too because I like Anacondas. But Frank, did you listen to the Cyclura one he did?
Damn right I did.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was cool.
You
That
did
was
too, right? Part 1 and part 2?
Yeah, so we did another episode with it was kind of like part 2 of both Cyclura and Anacondas. Talked about a little bit of both, primarily Cyclura, but yeah, we did like a full Anaconda, full Cyclura, and then kind of like a second round of both in one episode.
You know what my favorite part about the Cyclura one was
What's that?
was him prompting you to bring up people calling in to the show. Like it was like a phone segment, and I thought that was so fucking awesome. Sweet.
Yep. Absolutely.
That was really fun. That episode was really cool. But I haven't checked. Like I'm just starting to kind of go through like CCR and a lot of the Trap Talk stuff and NPR and all those guys. And there's definitely, I think that's definitely where I was getting to before I got sidetracked was I feel like the podcast, not only are they getting way more popular in the hobby, but I think they're definitely they're like, I don't know. I think they're just a really valuable resource that people don't utilize enough. And ours is kind of maybe a little less valuable information wise because it's mostly me just trying to, depending on the episode, fuck around and try to be funny. But like listening to your guys' podcast is definitely something that like I assume I'm speaking for Brennick as well as myself, where it's definitely something to look up to. And Kush's Korner is probably it. Like, oh yeah, I listened to some of your Pituophis ones too, and those were pretty badass.
Cool. Yeah.
And I mean, definitely think you probably should have started like a weed podcast, though. I don't smoke weed, but I kind of think it was wasted potential. But what do I know?
Dude, the worst part about it is neither do I.
Yeah.
It's a fucking tragedy.
Yeah, you probably should.
I've wasted my name.
Sure, you heard that one. Haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, but no, I always thought that, if I opened a dispensary one day, the marketing is just, the marketing budget would be zero. It's like, that's going to sell itself. But yeah, man, no, I love reptile podcasts. I'm an auditory learner. So from the time I was probably about 13 or 14, podcasts were like my thing. I was very fortunate. One of my early mentors in reptiles as a whole, his name was Josh Beatty. He was one of the original podcasters. He did a show called Royally Addicted, that ball python show, obviously, as the name would state. And I'm not sure the episode ever actually aired, but my first ever podcast interview, I think I was 11 years old for his show. It was a segment as part of like a multi-part. I think we talked for like 15 minutes, but man, as soon as I found like NPR and all the other shows back then, like when I was like in high school, especially, I like my whole life was reptile podcast. And now I listen to very few these days for the simple fact that I don't want my my style of interview to be affected by anybody else who's doing interviews within the same, the same realm. I don't want my show to be like a carbon copy of whoever else's it may be. There's definitely shows where there are particular guests. I'm like, oh wow, I want to hear from this person, whether it be NPR, CCR, any of the other Trap Talk shows. But for me, like if I'm doing something like all the time, I don't feel like consuming it all the time as well. So like I like to, vary it up a little bit, listen to something about business or sports or whatever else it may be. But then like I just love making these podcasts now. It's so much fun. I like how they're pretty evergreen. Rarely do I do like topical episodes. So like what you guys were saying in the episode, like the Cyclura episode, you can listen to that in 10 years and the information will be just as relevant as it is today. So kind of like creating this archive of information. It's my favorite way to consume information about anything, particularly about reptiles. So, and somebody like Terry, for instance, who's not online at all, there's some of these people who are still around who, they're not sharing their knowledge on social media, and it's no slight against them, but man, 2-3 hour podcasts with some of these legends of the hobby that we still have, like that is priceless information that will live as long as the internet does. So to me, that's like, it's like a time capsule of our hobby slash industry. So yeah, something I'm just very passionate about.
Yeah, and it's also a great excuse to even just be able to nerd out with these guys as a reptile fanatic. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
absolutely.
like having you on with Scrubs is super fucking cool. Having, I don't know, I don't even know who else we've had on the show. We've had like 3 fucking people. I already forget who they all are. We had a Mosasaur guy that was badass. We've had I was I was drunk as shit during that one. And B, Mosasaurs are cool, and it was something different. We did.
Yeah.
Brennick, what other episodes have we done? I don't even fucking remember.
It's a good question.
He doesn't
Off the
know
top of my
either.
head-
We've been doing this for like a month and a
We-
half. How don't we
we had
remember our episodes?
Jared Cook. We had the pike expert.
Have we done any reptile episodes before on this reptile
first
podcast
one?
that aren't Mosasaurs?
Hey, we got Steven Kush right now.
Oh, I did. I interviewed Zach.
Hey, Steven, can you tell I was a fan of the Unfiltered Reptile podcast?
Yes, I can. OG merch right there.
That's
Yep.
right.
This
Absolutely.
is how unplugged I am. Like I said, I'm just catching up. I got in. I was like, "What the hell is that, Brennan? Who the hell is that shirt?" Like,
This was tough to get. I had to like message.
Yeah,
Desiree.
go through customs and shit like that.
Yeah.
Probably. Fucking yeah, that's got to be surprised that they made it up there. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I had to like twist Desiree's arm a little bit. I'm like, can you like send one to Canada for me? She's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, I will like tip you an extra $20. I want the shirt.
A little bribe. Yeah,
That's badass.
bribe
Though.
for a t-shirt. Hell
That
yeah.
might be the farthest north Zoo Dream shirt. Could be.
Hey man, if there's anyone out there with a further north one, drop a comment. Be like, nah, I win the game.
Burn it.
I was gonna
I
tell
Brennick can have the farthest.
Braden to do Tatiana as the intro, just as a throwback.
Hell yeah, that would be fucking awesome. Real throwback right there.
That's badass. Oh man, I totally forgot what I was gonna
Super
say. Yeah,
professional intro we had back in the day.
Oh, it was sick. It was so good. But Unfiltered Reptile Podcast, Kush's Korner, that's what gets me through a 12-hour day. I'm just
Hey man, happy to hear
binging
that. Hell yeah, I appreciate it big time.
yeah, I've been really catching up on stuff now too. My first honestly, I didn't even really listen to podcasts that weren't comedy based until like a few years ago. Like literally like 2 years ago. And I started with one called the Common Descent podcast, which is like paleontology and evolution. And it was like a 10-year-old podcast by the time I started. And then, they were like 2-hour long episodes. It took me like 2 years to catch up. So I started from one and went all the way up. And now I just finished it, like caught up like 2 weeks ago. I finished the last episode because they're still releasing episodes today. So now I can catch up on, I don't know. Some of you guys have been doing podcasts for so fucking long. I don't even know where to start. Like Michael Gillen was like, oh, just, start with like NPR from the beginning. And I was like,
from the beginning.
What? Are you fucking crazy? I'm more of like a go on Spotify and look up Pituophis, Cyclura.
I guess you could
Connectees.
do that. But,
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not above starting a big podcast project, but oh my God, I just finished one.
Yeah, I feel like as far as that goes, cherry pick episodes that you're actually wanting to listen to.
I'm not starting from the fucking beginning.
Man,
Not
I mean,
happening.
I wonder like how many years it would take to get through the whole NPR library if you started from one.
It took me 2 years to get through 260 episodes of Common Descent. And I think
Yeah,
NPR is
so
now like
they've
way
done like
more than that.
I think they're almost at 500.
Yeah.
So
like 4 years. Let's say 4 years or so. And I did take breaks during Common Descent. Like I took a couple months here and there where I stopped listening for a little while. But like I have I got through it with that, but like I'll see episodes and like, I mean, if the title doesn't interest me, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I have to listen to this. And they always end up being awesome. Like every single time they end up being interesting and cool. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, I mean, I joke about ball pythons all the time. I could listen to a ball python podcast for sure and be like, oh, that was cool. I learned a lot. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
and
No doubt.
but like that's another perfect example, and exactly what you were just saying, Steven, where it's like you have this library of information just waiting for you to like go on YouTube or go on Spotify and look up, you know, Ball Python podcast or Corn Snake podcast or something weird. Like, you know, when I was a kid getting into garter snake podcast, there wasn't very many, and there's not even many now. But I mean, Scrub Python's podcast, probably all your shit would come up.
Probably by now. Yeah, I'd have to imagine so.
But yeah, it's definitely a treasure trove of information. I'm sure there's some not so great stuff out there too, as per anything. But I think for the most part, the people whose names are going to come up for reptile podcasts are generally pretty damn good. Like I love listening to I love listening to CCR and all those guys. And I definitely being able to talk to you guys. Like I was just saying, I just spoke to Zach Loafman. He's fucking awesome. We talked about crayfish for
he's a great
hour, guy. And had you on with the scrubs and talking about the free handlers that we love. Yeah. It's definitely great to be able to talk and meet with you guys and go from there, because this show is really new too. So, you know, I have a plan of like where I'd like for it to go. And like I said, I want this one to not be very serious, and some episodes are more serious than others. I tried to joke with that Pike guy. It was not working. He was too educated for me to joke around with. But it was an awesome episode. I had a really good time doing that one. But,
that's good.
But your show's definitely in my top 3. So
thank you. I'll take it.
Of the like 6 episodes I've listened to so far, because like I'm starting to get into reptile podcasts. But
cool.
While we're petering out here, Steven, can you Brannick, do you have anything before I?
Yeah, I had a scrub python question.
Good thing to end on.
Yeah, just like in regards to like the oxabills and the highlands.
Yeah.
They commonly like misrepresented or mislabeled when they're imported.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever been properly represented once by anybody ever. So that phase, what's called a highland or an orange highlander or an oxabill or whatever, is basically just the phase of southern scrub python that occurs in the rainforests that are at the base of the central mountain range in Papua New Guinea from east to west. So it's less of like a location and more of just like this strip of where they come from like Tamika and a little bit west, literally all the way down to near where Australia is. You'll find that it's more of a habitat thing than anything else, where the southern scrubs that are from more of the savanna habitat are the more tan brown ones that fit in better in that habitat. The ones that are in the more dense jungle become more orange and purple, whatnot, like what you would see with a quote unquote oxabill type animal. I'm not even sure if there are scrubs in oxabill proper, but very well maybe. And if they were, that's probably what they would look like. But my guess is that a lot of the animals that we have are probably coming from somewhere around Tamika or north of Tanamera, just based on where a lot of collection happens. But it's a phenotype that is present fully east to west.
That's what I was wondering, because I see what's represented as oxabill, and I'm like, that's what I want.
They're fucking fantastic. They're up there, man. Some of the most brightly colored, brilliant scrub pythons. They're amazing. I love them.
Well, awesome. If you ever decide you can ship to Canada, you give me a ring.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, Steven, this is the time where I'd like you, if you can, to plug whatever you'd like to plug.
Sure. So handful of things. Like we already said, podcast called Kush's Korner. It's on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, live every Wednesday night. You can find the archives of the shows on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, all the podcast platforms. The new episodes go up there as well. Not live, after the fact, usually within the next day or two. Kush Reptile on YouTube. That's where I do like vlog style videos every week. same Kush Reptile on Morph Market, Instagram, Scrub Shepherd, Steven Kush, Facebook.
Awesome. All that stuff will be, we'll tag all that stuff in the description too.
Perfect.
Aside from that,
thank you guys for having me, man. This was a fun time.
no problem.
Thank you so much for being here.
Got to get the sound effects in before the show's over.
That's where I'm ending it. Thank you for tuning in to Creature Crossing. Please check the description for social media links, Patreon, and more. Feel free to subscribe and leave us a review. The song used for our intro and our outro is called The Snake Eater's Palace, Outer Heaven by Audio Mocha, Anime Vivi, and Endless Repeat, which we found at ocremix.org. Thanks again for listening.